everybody. I am extremely happy to have you in this session. Once again, I am the Regional Director for West Africa for Clarity 4D. And I'll tell you my journey with Clarity 4D. I have worked with, I don't know if Olumide mentioned it, I've worked with many organizations, including HP and Microsoft, before I went into private practice. I was the distribution manager covering West Africa for Microsoft before I went into full-time consulting. And while working in these organizations, I have used a lot of personality management tools or personality profiling tools. But when I came to Clarity 4D, it was like this was the last bus stop. This was the last bus stop. So I'm going to share with you what I experienced. Okay. So let's just go straight into some of the client companies globally. So just to let you know that Clarity 4D is a global organization. These are some of the companies we've worked with around the world. In Nigeria and West Africa, you can count companies like Zenith Bank, BZ, you can talk about Sterling Bank. We also have First Bank. So there's several organizations within Nigeria that we have worked with in terms of Clarity 4D. And you will remember that right from the ancient Greek philosophers, and this is just to let you know that personality profiling is not new. It's not new at all. Profiling people is not new. When we meet people for the first time, if someone is walking towards you, the first thing you do is you sort of try to profile the person. Is this a harmful person? Could this be a nice person? Could this be, and how you do that is by looking at their demeanor. You look at their face. You look at how they walk. You look at their hands. They have something in their hands, like a weapon or something. So if you see someone in a nice suit, you know, like a designer suit, and then you look in the person's hand, you see a weapon. What does that tell you about the person? You guard yourself immediately, because in your mind, no matter how nice this person is looking, with that weapon in their hand, it sort of cancels every other thing. You profile that person as a harmful person, isn't it? So profiling is not new. We all profile, you know, in Greece, these philosophers used to really interrogate their minds. They interrogated their minds, they interrogated the world. So they came together and talked a lot about the world, you know. So you see, all of those people were great thinkers. And one of them in particular is relevant for what we're discussing today. His name is Hippocrates. Hippocrates was a medical doctor, he was a physician. And Hippocrates, while you know, relating with his patients, with his clients, he noticed different behaviors, and he became very interested in, you know, why people behaved the way they did. And the interesting thing is that from what we're told, Hippocrates was able to discover 4 different behaviors. And these 4 different behaviors, he called them the 4 humors. We know them today as the 4 temperaments, right? Choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, and
melancholy.
Melancholy, that's correct, melancholy. So we know them as those 4 humors. So the interesting thing is that you have them there: phlegmatic, choleric, melancholic, and sanguine. But his challenge was that he didn't know exactly why the people behaved that way. Everyone that came into his practice, he was able to put into one of these 4, you know, boxes, so to speak. And if you read the book, Why You Act the Way You Do, you would have known about these 4 temperaments. After Aristotle and all of those ancient Greek philosophers, and after Hippocrates had looked at the 4 different humors, another man came along. His name is Carl Jung. Carl Jung died in 1961. Carl Jung is known as the father of analytical psychology. He started to look at the work that Hippocrates did, and he also started to do his own research and discovered that really, as Hippocrates had found out, there are actually four different types of people in terms of their behavior. But the interesting thing is that Carl Jung now discovered that the behavior was not as a result of body fluids, as Hippocrates had said. Carl Jung said that the behavior is as a result of preferences, that people behave as a result of preferences. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I want everyone to answer. In fact, if you can answer in the chat area, just answer in the chat box. That would be nice. I want to ask you a question. Why do you use the hand you use? For example, if you use your right hand, right? Why do you use your right hand? If you use your left hand,
it's natural.
Right. Why do you use your left hand?
It's natural.
It's natural. So what do you mean exactly? Could you explain?
It came natural to
Could you
us.
explain?
You know, those people that use left, they didn't practice how to use left. It came natural to them. So when you see, when you hear that this person is a lefty, I'm sure it came natural to such people. I don't think they practiced it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now. Okay. Any other comments? Any other comments? All right. Okay. So if there are no other comments, thank you very much for your comment. Now, here's the thing. So
we all grew up.
Yes.
We all grew up seeing our parents, the way they behave.
Yes.
We see the pattern of hands they use.
Yes.
So, like more or less, observing what they do now, we follow suit. So, beside the fact that it comes naturally, there's some few people now use and the parents can change it to writing. So,
exactly.
One of my brothers, and he was worked on, and he started using right. So I think it's part of training, beside the fact that we inherited it from our parents and our environment.
Well, thank you so much. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't really know exactly how it happens in terms of our central nervous system and all of that. I do know that when we grow up, right, we start doing certain things. And when we find certain things comfortable, the one we find comfortable is the one we continue to use. So when we hold a pen, because we see our parents using their right hands, the tendency is for us to copy our parents, because we're told that we're all born as a clean slate, tabula rasa. We're all born as a clean slate. So when we come into the world, we tend to copy the things that our parents do. And whether left or right, you know, whichever hand we start using and we find it comfortable, what we tend to do is to continue using that same hand. And then as we grow up, you know, when you use something continuously, you tend to become more and more comfortable with it, right? So if you grow up using your left hand and you're more comfortable with your left, when somebody now tries to change it to your right, you tend to find it difficult to change to your right hand, you know, from your left, because you grew up using your left. So, and these are called preferences. The way we speak, the way we dress, the way we walk, the way we do things, a lot of those things come as a result of how we first started to do them, and then we did them continuously, and then we got comfortable with them, and they became our preference. So now, if they ask you to write, as soon as you see the pen, the hand that is the hand that you're more comfortable with, the hand that you prefer is the hand you will use to pick up the pen. Now, the interesting thing is this. What if something happened to that hand? For example, you had an accident, right? And you lose that hand. Let's say you were used to your right hand. That's the hand you were using. You felt that you were born using the, in fact, maybe you were born with the pen in your right hand, right? And something happened, you had an accident, God forbid, and then you lose that right hand. Is it possible to train the left hand to start working almost as your right hand? Is it possible?
Yes,
to start using your left?
Yes.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yes.
Difficult because you've spent a lot of time using a particular hand. You got used to it, right? Now, it's difficult, but not impossible, correct?
Well, yes.
Correct? Yes.
Yes.
So, and that is what we call preference. So Carl Jung discovered that a lot of times our behavior in terms of our personality comes as a result of preferences. So when you see people behaving a certain way in the office, a manager behaving a certain way, saying certain things, doing certain things, for example, a manager who likes to have things, in detail. Anything you give the manager, it must be in detail. When he asks you a question, you answer, he will ask you 10 more questions. Always asking for detail. That is the preference of that manager. There's another manager that once you give him one answer, he's off. Doesn't need the rest, right? Carl Jung discovered that we have 3 preferences, 3 basic psychological preferences, all right? One of them is the way we take decisions. We either take decisions from our head or from our heart. We are either logic-driven or emotion-driven in terms of our decisions. He also said that we have preferences. So if you look at the screen, you can see that you have at the top of the ring there, you have thinking, and at the bottom you have feeling. So he called it the thinking and the feeling preferences. Some people take decisions based on thinking, logic, facts, and other people take most of their decisions based on feelings, emotions. Okay. He also talked about the introversion and extroversion in terms of how we prefer our surroundings, our environment. For example, some people like a quiet environment. Some people like to be by themselves. They like to be alone most of the time. They spend a lot of time with themselves. They prefer that environment, right? They recharge their batteries by being alone. When they are in a noisy environment with a lot of people, their batteries quickly get drained, and then they're tired. They want to go back in to be on their own. And then you have the extraversion. The extraversion talks about people who tend to be quite outgoing, outspoken. That they like to be with people. They like to spend most of their time with other people. And so when they're alone, their batteries get drained. And then they want to go out and be with other people. They're a lot more friendly in terms of making friends. These are the 2 preferences. The third one is talks about intuition and sensation. All right, intuition and sensation. How we take in data. Now, so that's what Carl Jung discovered. And as Carl Jung discovered these things, from then till now, we have seen these things to be true and correct. And because of these preferences, we have our 4 personality types, which I'm going to go into as we go on. Now, why Clarity 4D? Clarity 4D as an organization is a company that has discovered some secrets to personal development. And if you look at on the screen, you will see 4Ds, right? We believe that there are 4 dimensions to personal development. And this is the behavioral profile that clarifies how to unlock our potential as we grow. The first dimension is discover. What do we discover? We discover ourselves. So that first dimension talks about self-awareness. Is it possible for anybody, and I would like someone to answer me, is it possible for anybody to maximize their potential to become the very best that they can be without them getting to know themselves, without them understanding themselves in terms of their strengths and weaknesses? For example, is it possible? Is it likely? Anybody?
Well, those 2 questions they contradict each other.
Okay.
They are very contradictory. Is it possible for, you want to be your best, and at the same time, you have something that is pulling you back? That's where
I've not said there's anything pulling you back.
Okay.
I've not said there's anything pulling you back. I'm talking about somebody understanding themselves, okay, knowing who they are, knowing what they're good at.
Okay.
Can somebody maximize their potential?
The
very best that they can be.
Yes,
without
yes, but
self-discovery.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Is it possible?
Well, yes. If others can understand you, I'll give you an example.
So if others understand you and you don't understand yourself.
No, if you understand yourself and others don't understand you, well, that's their problem. Like, okay. let me give you an example. Some people who maybe from time yes. immemorial, they cannot, by 10 they are asleep. Now they not get into an environment where they have to do vigil.
Okay.
So what do? And so once you understand yourself that you cannot, that even if you go to that vigil, you'll be going to sleep, then you avoid it. Is that?
We're saying, so I'm saying, if you don't know yourself, you don't understand yourself.
Yeah, Victor,
can you be the best that you can be?
No, it's not possible, Victor, because one of the laws is law of self-awareness. You have to know what you have, be aware of what you carry before you can manifest anything.
Exactly.
Because if you don't know, so and yes, was someone saying something?
Yes, that you have to know your weakness, and then you should be able to know your strength. So you are not sit down. How can you maximize those potentials?
Exactly.
And then how can you work against those things that can draw you back within your weakness?
That can pull you back. Yes.
So you have to know your strength. You have to know your weakness.
Exactly what I'm saying.
You can identify those things, then you work, you work with them.
So what I'm saying is this, and that's why that discover is our first dimension. So we believe that life is in 4 dimensions, okay? It's in 4 dimensions. Our personal effectiveness, personal development is in 4 dimensions. And the very foundation of it all is self-awareness, understanding yourself, knowing yourself, all right? And we call it discover. The second dimension is discuss. Discuss other people's perceptions about you. The third dimension is diversify. Diversify into your hidden potential. And the fourth dimension is develop. Develop. Investing whatever it takes into your development to become the best that you can be. Now, I'm going to go deeper into them a little bit. So if you look at this first dimension, we spent a little bit of time talking about this. This first dimension is how you see yourself. How do you see yourself? If I ask you to describe yourself, will you be able to describe yourself? If I ask you to, talk about yourself, write 20 pages about yourself, can you do that? You know everything about yourself. So if you look at this, the picture on our screen, you will notice something, that each animal is in front of a mirror, and we're all in front of a mirror. You know when they say the man in the mirror, you're in front of the mirror. Do you recognize the person inside the mirror? What image will project onto the mirror? Okay, we can spend 3 hours talking about this slide, but I will just let it go. Okay, first dimension is how you see yourself, very important. Then second dimension, sorry, first dimension, this is also first dimension. One of the things we do in our seminars is that we ask people to describe themselves using colors, and that's what Creative Quality is all about. And that's what this lady is doing with the cards you see there. For those who work in organizations where they run training programs, if we come to your organization to run a training program, this is one of the activities that we do with the colored cards that you see. During that activity, people get the opportunity to describe themselves. There are some words on those cards. I don't know if you can see, for example, I have a green card in front of me. There are some words there. So you use those cards to describe yourself and arrange them. You see, personal development and success is like a telenovela. It's like a series movie. You know these movies that have series? I don't know how to watch them because I don't have patience to watch those kind of movies. You watch season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4. When I made a mistake by watching Prison Break. How many of you remember Prison Break? Long time ago. Personal development is like that. Every season, you are unfolding who you are. We're like an onion. So understanding more about who am I, it will shock you that a lot of people have not even considered and thought about it. Who am I? They've never asked themselves that question. So that is series 1, episode 1. If we are a telenovela, our personal development is the telenovela, that is series 1, episode 1. We're just starting. That's the foundation, right? It's the how I see myself, discover. Second dimension is how other people see you. Now, if you look at what we have on the screen, these images describe one person, the same person. Some will see you as a